What's up, guys? So in this video we're going to talk about stop hunts. Alright, I'm going to show you exactly how to trade them, how to identify them, and how you can make a lot of money off them. Alright, so let's go ahead and get right into it. So what actually even is a stop hunt? Okay, so a stop hunt is when price takes out a higher low and takes out a bunch of stops. Okay, now the way that you can identify where a stop loss will be is generally right when you see a lot of equal highs or equal lows. Okay, the classic support resistance or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so here, if we look over here, you can see we have a high, a high, a high, a high. We have four highs back to back right here. Okay, so you can imagine as a typical retail trader, whoever it is, right, when price comes back down here, a lot of people who are short are going to have their stop loss right above the 64.60 level. Okay, 64.70 level. All right, we'll draw that in just like this. All right, so we know that there's a bunch of stops above here because we have a consolidation, we have a lot of resistance. It's a very clear and obvious area that there's going to be stops there. And what happens, we can see price end up bursting through it and we get a stop hunt. Okay, now how do I know that this is a stop hunt? Well, you can tell it's a stop hunt because price immediately takes all the stops and then we immediately dump in the other direction. Okay, that's the difference that I think a lot of people miss. Okay, if this wasn't a stop hunt, price would have kept going higher, buyers would have drifted higher, and we would have kept moving up. The fact that we quickly wicked through it, went right through it, right? All the stops got triggered, and then whoever's on the other side of that, because you got to imagine, right? If there's a bunch of stops here, if somebody's short, and their stop loss is to buy, that's to cover their position, then price is going to explode higher. Right, so we would expect when price finally gets above all these stop losses and all these stop losses triggered, that price would zoom higher, but it doesn't. Price ends up dumping down the other way. We actually end up going down a lot further. Okay, and the reason for that is because there's institutions who are shorting and collecting all of those buys and taking the other side of it. They're shorting all of that liquidity, all of the stop losses that are being hit, that are buying, starting market execution orders that are driving price up, is actually getting taken over by somebody or multiple firms or institutions that are shorting. Okay, so they're absorbing all of the stop losses into their short position here. Okay, and then they drag it, they build some more position, and then price goes a lot lower. Okay, so you can use this to your advantage when you're trading. I'm going to show you an example of exactly how you can do it, right? So this one right here would be a great example, right? You can see a very clear resistance formed. We just take the stops and we end up going the other way. Okay, now another example right here, right? And again, this works on all different time frames. Okay, so you can trade it however you want, all different time frames. So if we're looking at KO on a 2-hour chart, you can see here we have this low here. Okay, now why is this a prominent low? Well, you can see we're in a downtrend. Price came down, we tagged it, went down, we held it again, a lot of consolidation above it. Okay, so when you see this, you say, okay, well, everybody, you just got to think with your brain, right? There's a lot of people who are long here. Okay, a lot of people who are probably buying, maybe down at this demand, down at the support, whatever you want to call it, right? A lot of people who are buying, and they're gonna have their stops right under the low, right? Every time you see a high or a low, a pivot point per se, right? This is a high, this is a low, this is a high, this is a low. There's typically going to be stop losses there because that's where people put their stops. They expect price to hold those highs and lows areas and price to go the other way. So we can see that there's going to be stops down here. And what happens is you can see price consolidates and we have taken all those stops right there. Right? And you see we get a little bit of increased volume there as well. So price comes down, we end up taking those stop losses. And again, everyone who's long here, as soon as price gets below this 58.87 area, they start to sell. And so if you have a bunch of people selling, what are you going to expect? You're going to expect price to go a lot lower. But what ends up happening is that price goes lower for a little bit, we immediately reverse in the other direction. Okay, immediately go to the other side with a fast movement. When you see that, now you know it was a stop hunt. Okay, the thing with stop hunts, and you don't know if it's a stop hunt until after the fact, right? So it's literally after this day closes, when price takes all these stops and we end up going all the way higher, at this moment, you're able to understand, okay, there's a good chance this is a stop hunt, all right? Because it's not a real move lower. We just took stops and we went higher, right? So a lot of institutions probably bought down here at this low. They probably absorbed a whole bunch of shares, okay? So when you see this happening, you can say, okay, that's a stop hunt. Stop hunts typically are the result of institutional activity, which means price is probably going to go on the other side. So what you can do at this point is say, okay, now I'm going to look to get into a long position, put my stop below the stop hunt. Okay, so instead of doing what retail does, where you see a low form, right? You take this and then putting your stop below there. You wait for price to take the stops, then go the other direction. Then you can put your stop there, because if price keeps going and you stop out again, then you were probably wrong. Okay, but in this case, you can say, okay, we stop hunt, we immediately reverse. I'm going to look to get long. Right, so you can add in other confirmations, right? Ideally, you're not just trading this blindly, right? Ideally, you have this within your strategy. Maybe price is coming down to another demand zone, it lines up with it. Maybe it's coming down to a different zone or whatever it is you're trading, right? You want to use it with something else. So you see this happen, and you can say, okay, another confirmation. We have the supply zone here. Price got above supply. Boom, that's a good confirmation. The fact that price was able to get above a supply zone means there's some pretty strong buyers here. So when you see this, you can say, okay, now I'm going to look to get long. You get long, put your stop below the low, and we end up going all the way back higher. Okay, you can see, where do we go? Right to the other stops. Okay, that's all it is. There's stops up here, stops down here. Market makers get filled here. They probably build a position here. They bring price up, right? They get out here. They short, they build more position, and they bring it back down. That's all that's happening. Okay, while retail, on the other hand, right, retail is shorting down here, they're buying the breakout up here, they're going all over the place. They're going in the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Okay, so this is a very good example of how you can trade it. Now, I'm going to show you a few more. Let's go ahead and look at Adobe. Another beautiful setup. You can see price comes down to this demand zone. Okay, now again, you typically want to use stop hunt with another strategy. So we're looking at this, price comes down into demand. Nice, we get a nice little tap into demand, we move higher. And then we end up consolidating, spike higher, came back down, a little consolidation. And we end up taking out that low again. We go ahead, take out that low, just by a little bit, right? And then we immediately reverse. So what happened there? It was a stop hunt. You can see a lot of people have their stops right below this low. Price took it, they all got stopped out, and we immediately reversed the other way. When you see this happen, combined with the fact that, price is inside a demand zone, combined with the fact that price was able to get above the supply zone, right? So at this point, when price is way over here, you're able to take all this information in and say, we had a stop hunt, we're inside demand, we got above supply, I'm going to look to get in long. Price is probably going to move higher. That's exactly what happened, right? And then you can target supply zones, you can target more stops up here and up here, price just rips, okay? It's the same pattern. Happens all the time in every single market, every single time frame. Let me show you one more on Snap. Same thing, right? We have this move lower, price moves up, down. It can happen inside of a trend as well, right? We're inside of a trend, price moves up. We have this low form, we have another low form. We're in this little consolidation phase. We end up going lower. We take those stops, and we immediately rip. Okay, so it doesn't have to be at an all-time low, right? You can be in the middle of a trend. Right, and you see we have these equal lows here. It's pretty obvious that there's going to be some stops here. Right? Everybody who's long in this area, you got to think, everyone who's buying in this area is going to have their stops right below this low, right? Because a lot of people trade support resistance, right? And so when support gets broken, you expect price to drop. So what happens here is price, the support breaks, we just immediately reverse the other way. And again, when you see that drop and that fail to break down, and then price just immediately goes in the other direction, that's your sign that, hey, this was probably a stop hunt, not probably real sellers, and I'm going to look to get long to take the other side. That's exactly what ended up happening, okay? We just took those stops, immediately went higher, came all the way up to the supply zone, all right? All the way up to supply. Very, very simple. It's the same pattern, happens over and over again, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do want to learn more about how I trade, I've been trading 6 years, I'm a full-time trader. All you have to do is click the first link in the description below. Okay, I made a free training video for you going over one of my strategies and one of the issues that's going to stop you from making consistent profits if you have this obstacle. All right, so If you guys want to learn that free training, go ahead, click that first link in the description. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment below other videos I should make, and I'll see you all inside the next video.